Hi, I'm designer Jen Gallacher, and today I'm putting together a December daily album. Now I'm going to take a slightly different turn with this album, and it's going to be an Elf on the Shelf album. Now we don't do daily December traditions, perhaps you do, so a traditional December daily album does not work for me. But for the first time last year we did do an Elf on the Shelf album, so I'm going to be using photos from last year. But what I want you to do is to take the suggestions that I make in this video and use them for either your December daily album, an Elf on the Shelf album, or even a December traditions album. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is gather all of your supplies. And I'm not going to go through all my supplies. I already did that in my out of the box December daily album, which I will link below, so be sure to watch that first. But you will notice that I'm going with a traditional red and green color scheme and adding in some chalkboard elements. So step one to preparing your album is to shop your supplies. Now once you've gathered everything, you want to keep it out. So whether you're going to do like I'm going to do and create the entire album from start to finish, or whether you're going to spend a little time each day creating the album, keep these items separate. It's so much easier than trying to reshop your supplies. So create a cute little basket or container and put everything that you've shopped, whether it's from a local retailer or online, all together. So let's go ahead and start the next step. Step number 2 is to prep your pages. Now remember, I am going to be using this fun crepe paper album, but I'm not going to use necessarily all of the items that they sent. And some of them might be fun for this particular album, such as this fun envelope would be great for a letter to Santa. And perhaps you could use some of the elements, but I'm not going to use all of them. So I'll go ahead and set them aside. But one thing that you can do is you're prepping the album, you can use a page as a template. So what you will do is you will simply take that pattern paper and you'll take one of your selected pattern papers and then determine if you're going to use the front side or the back side, and then you can trace or simply place this on top and use your paper cutter and then cut this out. So one thing that I like to do is I like to prep all my pages ahead of time. So what I will do is I'll gather all of the items for one of the pages, and I'll show you what I mean by prepping your pages. So here's what I mean by prepping your pages. So the first thing that I'll do is I did as I suggested, and I traced and cut out this particular pattern paper from the Heidi Swap pattern paper, and then I'm going to add a few elements to it. The first is a glitter piece from the POW paper by American Crafts, and I'm just going to cut a pennant shape from the bottom. And then I will attach this with some adhesive. And you do want to think about where the holes are going to be placed, and don't put any embellishments without thinking about where those holes are going to go. I'm going to take a plain white doily from Wilson Art and cut it in half. This makes it a little bit wider. And I usually only add adhesive just under the solid white part, as these are quite fragile. And things can hang off the ends of the page. This is just a design decision for you. I'm going to use the top of this tag. First I'm going to place the photo. And I pre-printed all of my photos beforehand so that I could easily move through this project. Some of them are printed at the full 5x7, the same size as a full sheet from this particular project, and some are 2x3 and some are 4x6. Depending on the page, I will add a certain size to the project. So I'm going to use this clear die cut. It's kind of hard to see. Put it on there. You can see it has a little bit of a scroll there, right on top of the photo. We're just building layers. Now some of your pages will be more journaling based and some will be more photo based. Because this is an Elf on the Shelf project, it isn't going to have as much journaling because it isn't about my children, it's about the elf's exploits, and so I don't have as much to say about his exploits as I might with my children. So you want to think about when you're producing your own album how much journaling you want to include. Punch a little hole on the top of that tag from Elle's Studio. Place that back there. We have some sequins. There are several that are just generic in color, but there are also colors that you can get that are Christmas oriented. I know Teresa Collins also has several that are specific to Christmas. I'm going to tie a little bit of twine in the top of that tag, just to make it look a little bit more authentic. And it looks like the adhesive, the dot runner adhesive, is not sticking, so I'm going to use a glue dot to stick it down instead. Sometimes when you're using the glitter paper, it doesn't stick as well. So you can see by just collecting all of the things beforehand, it makes the design process go so much smoother. So you can either kit up each individual page, or make a page, move on to the next page, make a page, move on to the next page, but have everything handy and ready to go. Again, a clear tree shape from Little Yellow Bicycle. Put that directly on the photo, and because it is clear, it's easy to spot. And then I'm going to take the 'Tis the Season element sticker sheet, and I'm going to pull off this Jolly Christmas sticker, and then I'm going to place that right across the top of the tree sticker. And at this point you can decide, do I want to add days or a number to the page? And that is up to you. Before I add the number, I'm going to add one more sequin to the page. Now you can add numbers with die cuts, or there is an exclusive 2-piece printable that goes with this. I'm going to use a Bella Boulevard number 3, and I'm just going to stick it in the corner near the sequins. And then always make sure that the page fits within your album. So just get a feel for how it's going to look. This isn't actually the page that will go first. This shows you how it looks. So step 2 is to gather your supplies for each of your pages. So let's go ahead and finish the entire album. So let's talk about a page style that you can use in your December Daily or your Elf on the Shelf album, and that is a journaling page. And they come in a lot of different ways, and the one that I'm going to do today is a full sheet of journaling, meaning the journaling takes up almost all of the page. And to do this, you either need to pre-plan your journaling by typing it ahead of time, or by writing it out on the page. You'll notice that I left a gap here, and that is so I can put a photo there. I've also centered the text onto the cardstock I'm using. You could also print or write on pattern paper, but I am going to be using some cardstock today. Now before I add anything else to the layout, I'm going to be using a snowflake stamp and some Versamark stamping ink. Now you could use a green stamping ink. I want just a very subtle snowflake throughout the page, and you'll notice that I have a sheet of white printer paper underneath, just so that if I stamp off the page, it doesn't stamp onto that foam base that I'm using. So I want to create images, and knowing there are going to be elements around the page, I'm trying to stamp in areas that you'll be able to see it. Again, it's really, really subtle. If you wanted something a little bit more dynamic and easier to see, then I suggest that you go with a slightly darker ink color. So you can see the images are beginning to show up, and as they dry, they'll be better viewed. Then at the top of the page, I'm adding some black polka dot pattern paper from Echo Park Paper. And I've already pre-measured everything, which again, when you prep your kits and you prep your pages, this goes a lot more smoothly. And some red pattern paper. And then at the top, I'm going to use this Silent Night chipboard sticker, also from the 'Tis the Season collection. And I'm going to slightly overlap it. To add a little bit of texture, I'm going to take some white crochet twine, and I'm going to lift up this border that I just stepped down. And I'm going to wrap it around a few times. You'll notice when I show you the album that throughout the album I have several different places where I've added things like twine and doilies to give it a little bit more of a presence, give it a little bit more texture. I've also added tinsel in a ribbon form throughout the album. And I'm going to add a little glue dot just to help hold it in place. So you can see that I'm starting to form that page. Now before I lay anything else down, I kind of will start placing things so I can get a better idea of placement. And I've cut the top off, or rather the bottom, of a tag from Little Yellow Bicycle. I used the other part of the tag in a different page in the album. And I'm going to stick this slightly off center. And you want to make sure that you are not obscuring any of the journaling. So make sure that when you place it down, that you can still read your journaling. And then the photo will go right at the top. Again, make sure it's centered in the middle. You can measure it if you want to be perfect about it. I have a transparency die cut from Little Yellow Bicycle, and I'm going to add an element in the center here. So I'm going to go ahead and use some glue dots. I don't want to add too many elements because then you can't see where the letters are. Again, as you're placing it down, make sure you're not obscuring any of the journaling. Then I'm going to spell out joy with some stickers from the chipboard sticker sheet set from the 'Tis the Season collection. And because I've been playing with them a little bit, they aren't quite as sticky as when I first started using them. So I'm going to add some glue dots to make sure that they stay on my page. And sometimes you have to do this. A wet adhesive also works great for this technique. Again, just adding some glue dots. I usually start with the center letter in the center of the layered piece so that I can make sure that everything else ends up being centered as well. This particular page talks about my son's joy. When he was in kindergarten, they had a elf party, and unfortunately I was really sick that day and he didn't get to go, and he has never forgotten that. So our little elf decided that that wasn't going to do, and he created some invitations for my son to have an elf party. And this layout and the journaling is longer because I wanted to document the story behind this. So you can see that you have now a journaling page. Again, you can add additional embellishments. You can add a scallop to the end. You can add more stickers. It's up to you. But this is what a journaling page looks like. Now let me show you what a full photo page looks like. Now on the back of this layout, it is just green cardstock. And I wanted to add photos that document a little bit more about this elf party. So what I did in my Photoshop program is I added 2 horizontal photos, or rather vertical photos, and 1 horizontal photo. And this allowed me to show my son's reaction when he saw the elf party for the first time, and then show some detailed photos of what Norman the elf did to create a party for my son. So what I did is I printed them out and then I trimmed them out a little bit smaller than the green cardstock so that they would be centered within the green cardstock. And then across the center, I am going to add a glitter sticker, and I gently fold it in half, and then I'll trim off the corners to create a pennant shape. And because this is slightly thicker pattern paper, and it does get glitter everywhere, there are manufacturers that make it where the glitter doesn't come off quite as much. So if you don't like that look, make sure you look for a manufacturer, but you can see it dumps a lot of the glitter out. Then I also have this little chipboard circle, and this is going to go in the center of the page. And then in the center of that sticker, let me show you what it looks like, I'm going to add the numbers, and the numbers correspond with the day or the event. So we didn't do Elf on the Shelf every day. I simply just did day 1, day 2, day 3, so that it would document each day that Norman appeared and did something fun. So we'll go ahead and add the stickers in the center. Now throughout the album, I've used a variety of different letter stickers, and they are the numbers on the letter sticker sheet. You'll notice I've used the larger ones as well as the smaller ones. I've also done some in red, and the last page we did, I did in silver. And that is a way to document numbers. They're also an exclusive 2-piece printable if you like that look a little bit better. Then you can further document the layout with washi tape or sequins or whatever you want. But basically the concept for a photo page is that it includes a couple of different photos. So the next type of page I want to show you is called a specialty page, and these can range from packages of glitter to envelopes to special shaped pages to even a transparency. And this is actually a doily transparency from KI Memories, but it made me think of snowflakes. And you can see that I have pre-cut it for the album. The album is 5x7. And then at the top, I've already pre-punched the holes. Now the thing about a transparency is you need to think about what's going on the front and what's going on the back, because it will show through. So if I were to put a photo on the front and then I didn't come over on the back and embellish it, all you would see is a big white back of that photo backing. So you need to pre-plan a little bit. I'm going to start with a larger doily, and I'm going to adhere this right in the center of the page. I already know that behind this actual page, the next page will be a photo, and it is this page that I've already prepared, and I'm going to be covering it with the transparency. So it's just going to give a hint of things to come. It doesn't matter that I'm completely covering the next thing. It's just a fun embellishment type page. Once I have the doily on, I usually like to add the next layer on the back side. So I will turn it over, and then I will match up the doily shape as best I can so that from either side of the page you can easily see the doily. Now I've just taken a standard size punch, a circle punch, and I've punched from the glitter paper. And I already knew that this was going to fit easily in the center of the doily. So simply measure the diameter of the circle you're trying to cut, and then using either a manual or digital die cut machine or a punch, cut out the shapes. So then I have some black polka dotted pattern paper, and you'll see that I have 2 strips of this, and I'm going to cut them both the same so that I'm going to have a polka dotted banner on both sides of the pages, because on the back of this particular pattern paper is a pattern paper that would look funny. And by that I mean you can see it has just a bunch of text, and if that were to show through on the other side, you can see a little bit of the text. And so if that doesn't bother you, that's fine. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to adhere this across the center of the silver shape. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the back. So again, I've done this twice. You'll notice, however, that I have not added the glitter piece on this side because I want this side to be a little bit different. To the center of this fun shape, I'm going to add this 25th of December, because the very last day that the elf showed up was Christmas morning, and then he disappeared during the day. I'm sure he was off helping Santa. So this particular page is going to be about the 25th, and I'm going to lift this pennant up a little bit and add some twine. And it looks like that isn't going to stick to the glitter paper, and that happens sometimes depending on the texture of the paper that you're using. I can simply add some glue dots and it will stick just fine. So I'm going to tie this into a bow. You could also tie it into a knot. Baker's twine also looks really good on this project, especially red or green or even a Christmas baker's twine. So then just using some glue dots, I will re-adhere this on the page. Make sure you're not gluing down your twine. And again, you're matching up both sides of the banner. And make sure your page is straight, and then you can trim off the excess pieces of twine. Now I'll decorate the other side later. I simply want to show you what it looks like when placed on top of the next page. So you can see, again, just a hint will show through, and then as you flip the book, you'll be able to see the full page. But it's fun to add specialty pages like this. So again, think of something fun that you could do that makes the album a little bit more special. It doesn't have any journaling, it doesn't have any photos, it's just simply a fun page, which makes the album more interesting. So one of the very last things that I do for my albums is I usually create the cover at the last. That allows me to incorporate all of the elements that you see in the album and add a little bit of everything. And for the cover, I want to give a peek, so I'm going to actually start my cover with a transparency, and it is a star transparency, which is appropriate for Christmas. And then I'm going to be using this card from Little Yellow Bicycle. And again, remember that whatever you do on this side, you'll be able to see on this side. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take this sticker, and you can see that I've cut around it so that I could kind of place it and see where I wanted it to be. And I'm going to make sure that I can still see this word down below. And I'll add that. Then some paper from the collection. I've used several of these, and we're going to create 2 pennants, and just using the technique that I usually do, just cut off the little triangle on the bottom, and then do that again for the black number strip. One thing when I'm picking the cover and projects for the cover is I try to think about incorporating as much of what you see inside as on the front, meaning that I try and incorporate similar colors and similar product styles. It looks out of place for the cover to all of a sudden have objects that you have not used inside the album. So think about that as you are planning things. Perhaps you have some favorite things, a sticker or something that you want to save specifically for the cover. But do plan ahead. Now I ended up using the tree, and I knew that I wanted the tree to likely be on the cover, so I made sure that I didn't use it in the rest of my album. If you do like, say, the element stickers, and you think that you want to use them both on the cover and in the album, then simply buy an extra set of the stickers or an extra set of the papers. I basically used up all of the items in the collection kit, which made the design process really, really easy. At the very bottom, I am going to add some tinsel, and I'm going to add it on both sides. So first thing I will do is I'll take this double-sided red sticky tape, and this is from American Crafts, and the tinsel I'm using for the cover is a little bit thicker than some of the tinsel I've used inside, because I want as little of that strip of tape to show. So this is a little bit thicker, and again, it is from Tim Holtz. And I'm just pressing it as I go, and it does stretch a little bit. So I like to stretch it, press it right in. And then you can either add another strip on the side or determine how much of that tape is showing and how much it bothers you. All right, for the title, I'm using some Remark stickers. This is a Cecily type from American Crafts, and it is glittered. And I'm going to start with the bottom of the title, and I'm going to say shelf. It's going to mention that this is an Elf on the Shelf album. So I'm going to start at the bottom so I can make sure that the title ends exactly where I wanted it to. If you find that your thickers are not sticking, you have a couple of options. One is to do what I've done before, and that is to simply add some glue dots to them. You can also machine stitch across the bottom of them. They will go through a sewing machine, but do practice before you do it because you don't want to ruin your sewing machine or your needle. In fact, I would start with a fresh needle. So we're going to go ahead and cover up that bird. We're not even going to worry about covering up the bird. It'll just be a hint of red in the background. The nice thing about the thickers is they're just sticky enough that if you make a mistake, you can still pull them up, and you can change the title if you need to. And I'm just trying to do kind of an off-centered design. It's not exactly perfectly centered, and that's okay. And you can see that I just easily pulled them up. So they're just sticky enough, like I said. So if you want them to be a little bit more sturdy, definitely add some additional adhesive. Now to give it a little bit more bling and shine, I'm going to add some of these sequins. And they do stick on very easily with glue dots. And then if you want to incorporate a brad, you can. So here's the 'Tis the Season brad set, and I'm going to use this 25 brad. You simply remove it from the back. And then because I don't want to pierce through the transparency because it will show on the back, I'm going to cut off those extra metal pieces and just use some sharp scissors, and then I'll press down that backing so that it stays. And then just use a glue dot. If you have an adhesive glue dot, it works especially well. You can also add adhesive directly to your project and then stick it on. Just make sure that the number, if you're using a number, sits upright. And then you can add more adhesive if you need to. So this is the cover for my album. Let me go ahead and finish compiling the album, and then I'll show you each page in the album. So here's a look inside my December Daily album, which is an Elf on the Shelf album. Here is the cover. You'll notice that I added a little bit of this silver pattern paper on top. I did not add anything on the back, which is the only page of clear transparency paper that I did not document on the back. On the first page of the album, I included a photo from the first time they discovered the Elf on the Shelf, and I added some glitter paper, some stickers that are here and here, as well as this tag tied with twine. On the back is a longer journaling page. This particular stamp is from Glitz Designs, and then I included all the documentation of how they discovered the package, what they named their elf, and they named him Norman. And this one is a little bit longer. There are a few pages in the album that are a little bit longer. This particular page includes one large 5x7" photo, and I did round the corners. I added the journaling across, and notice that it does hang off the page. Now, a photo typically just has photo paper on the back, so I did back it with some diagonal striped pattern paper from Heidi Swap. This 4x6 card is from the Simple Stories collection, and I simply added a photo corner to the bottom corner. I have another transparency sheet here, and as I was preparing this, I made sure that I had a doily on one side and a doily on the other, and then I included a joy sticker on one side and then star stickers on the other, and it does create a little bit of a see-through peekaboo effect, and this is a fun page to add. On day 2, Norman was busily playing with our Xbox. I added some tinsel here, as well as a chalkboard sticker from American Crafts on the side, and then I placed a sticker from We Are Memory Keepers inside the chalkboard label. On the back side, I document finding Norman on this day. I added some stamping with a snowflake stamp from Hero Arts and red stamping ink. And I also included some of the paper from the original album. This graph paper is from the original album. You'll see a lot of these transparency die cuts, which are from Little Yellow Bicycle, throughout this album. On day 3, Norman got into one of the packages. This particular day, my son was a little concerned that Norman might have opened one of his packages. But this is the layout that I showed you before. On the back is the documentation and the journaling for this page. What I did is I cut out a 3x4 journaling card and simply typed up some journaling that I then ran across this page. And then I added some further embellishments just to make it a little bit more interesting. On this particular page, I did again a large 5x7" photo, and I selected a photo that was a little bit out of focus, a little bit more. It was a bigger picture of the toilet paper tree. And then I also printed out a smaller, more detail-oriented photo, and I left the white around the edge of the photo. You'll notice that I pop dotted this as well. The journaling comes out from this side, and this entire page includes both the photo and the journaling. On the back side is a just for fun page, and I document the fact that Norman didn't always make an appearance, that sometimes we took a break. So this is a great way to use up some of your 4x6 cards and then just add additional stickers and embellishments. On day 5, what I did was I used a tag from the original album. And then at the bottom, I tied some ribbon. This particular tag peeking out is from Chic Tags. I did punch a hole through it and add some of the crochet twine. A transparency from Little Yellow Bicycle, and again you'll notice that I've used red and green and silver numbers to document each day. On the back, the actual tag was white, so I added some pattern paper, making sure that the script ran the right direction. This is a die cut piece from Simple Stories, a glitter piece from Fancy Pants Designs, and one of the transparencies from Little Yellow Bicycle. This time I made sure that my journaling ran vertically. On day 6, I used a dimensional sticker from the 'Tis the Season collection. You can see it's a little dimensional, and I added the number directly on top. I added some additional items behind. This particular cutout was from the collection, and you can cut it out and add to it. You can see that it is green on one side. They have an entire sheet with a bunch of cutouts that you can add, and then I added a sticker. You'll notice that the photos vary in size, which allows me to have bigger pages with more embellishments or an entire photo page. On the back is some journaling. I added a 4x6 postcard journaling card. You'll notice that it sticks off and is visible from the front side, but that's okay because it's a nice pattern. Then the journaling runs across as well, but I created a little pennant shape. This tucked behind here tag is a chic tag, a sticker from Simple Stories, and again you'll see these sequins appear throughout the album. You could substitute enamel dots, or you could even do spray mist for anytime you see little droplets or rather sequins like this, you could do droplets of mist. Day 7 is one that is centered down the page. It's a simple page and it probably took me the least amount of time. It's good to have these mixed in so that they don't take too long. This is a 3x4 card that included some type as well as some snowflakes on the bottom. On the back side, I took another one of those 4x6 journaling cards, but this time I cut it down so it fit perfectly across. I did allow my journaling to run across, and you'll notice that on the front, all it shows is some red tabs. It's not distracting, it works fine. So sometimes you want to include the journaling just within the parameters of your page, and sometimes it's okay to go across. You'll see these doilies used throughout. I suggest cutting them in half so that you don't waste any of the doily, and you can use the doily over and over again. The snowflake die cuts are transparencies from Little Yellow Bicycle Design, and rather than poke through the page and show the brads on the other side, I simply snipped off the brad pieces and used glue dots to adhere them to the center of the snowflakes. On day 8, Norman took a bubble bath in marshmallows. Again, the journaling goes across the page. These two tags are from cutouts from the 'Tis the Season collection, and I've added twine tied in a bow and tied in a knot. The numbers appear in a variety of places throughout my album. By putting them in different places, it keeps it a little more interesting. On the back is page 9, and you'll notice that I added the number in the center of one of these white transparency items from Little Yellow Bicycle. This time I printed 2 small photos, which are about 3 by 2 inches. One is a little closer up and one is a little further away, which better tells the story of what Norman did that day. The journaling runs across the bottom, and then I included a sticker that referred to the gifts that Norman is guarding. After Norman got into the presents, my son got a little concerned, so Norman had guard duty that night. I already showed you this transparency page. You'll notice that I removed the December 25th, and I'm going to use that sticker later. It didn't make sense to have December 25th in the middle of the album because December 25th was the last day Norman came to visit us. On the other side is a sticker from Simple Stories. I love mixing and matching as long as they have similar elements like the green and the red. This is page 10. Again, this is another 5x7 full photo page. I did round the corners. You can also leave them straight if you prefer. This one's quite simple in that it has a scallop from a leftover sheet of pattern paper, a sticker, some washi tape, and some sequins. Again, the photo is white on the back, so I took one of the original pages from the albums and I rounded the corners again and then adhered the 2 pieces together. A little bit of pattern paper across and a photo. The journaling runs across the edge here. You'll notice that before I added anything, I also stamped those snowflakes again. Snowflakes are a great background stamp. You can use any background stamp or any image that speaks Christmas to you. And the numbers this time are on one of those American Crafts chalkboard labels. Page 12 was a kissing booth. I found this cute kissing booth printable online. I'm sure you can find it by searching for Elf on the Shelf, and it's also on my Elf on the Shelf Pinterest page. The numbers are placed on a red and green transparency, and the photo pretty much takes center stage. Again, you'll notice that my paper runs across and over the page, but it's not too distracting on the other side, so I'm not worried. On this side, I took another 3x4 card. This time it wasn't a journaling card, it was an image card. And I simply dressed it up by using some of those dimensional stickers. You see how they have dimension from the 'Tis the Season collection, and I placed them on some twine. I added another one of those chalkboard labels and some washi tape. And then I decorated the bottom with a paper brad. Again, I snipped off the edges before placing this on. You need to think about that before you pierce through 2 pieces of paper, or else do it ahead of time and then add the photo at the end. A Joy Peace Love sticker finishes off this page. On day 13, Norman got a little hungry and went fishing for goldfish crackers. I got a lot of my ideas on Pinterest. Like I said, I have a Pinterest page for this, but some of them were just ideas that we came up with and were fun, and we let our kids help a little bit because they're a little bit older. So this time there's a transparency that runs across, and the numbers sit across the top of this particular sticker. Throughout, I've added different photo corners. These happen to be black. On the other side is the Just for Fun page. I popped out these 2 ornament stickers, and before adding them, I placed a gem brad inside, and this time I did poke holes through them. This is a 3x4 card from Simple Stories, and this is from one of their die cut pieces. These came in really handy, so even if you don't have a silhouette machine or a Cricut, you can easily find pre-die cut items and add them to your page. Peeking out from back here is a journaling card from Little Yellow Bicycle, and then this gray snowflake is a sticker, and this is pattern paper. On day 14, I used that journaling page I showed you earlier about Norman creating a party for my son, and then on the back again is that fun die cut page that used a lot of photos. It looks like my 15 has fallen off, and if you find that happens when you're using your albums, it just simply means you need a stronger adhesive. So I'm going to add some additional glue dots to this just to make sure it sticks. I also added a party sticker and some additional sequins. On this final page is the last journaling that says goodbye to Norman and tells him we can't wait to see him next year. This again is a 3x4 journaling card that I have fussy cut with the items running across. You'll notice that the 25th of December sticker is now placed on this page, where it makes a lot more sense because the last day that Norman appeared was on Christmas. And then on the back here is just a fun page to finish off the album. So this completes the album. I'll go ahead and put it within the actual clips on the clipboard and then show you what it looks like as a finished product. So here's how the clipboard looks when it's completely put together. Now you cannot add additional ribbon and things here because the album is so bulky and cumbersome that you would not be able to lay it flat. So I don't recommend adding things here. You could add things to the bottom or off the side. I was a little worried as I started putting it together that it might not fit on the clipboard, but it did. Had it not, the thing that I could have done was I could have purchased slightly larger rings to fit inside the holes that I already punched, and they do come in a variety of sizes. I've seen them as large as 3 inches. Then you could add additional ribbon and it would have no trouble lying flat, but it does fit on this clipboard, and I love this clipboard from Mackie Holmes. So for all the photos and the product list, be sure to visit either 2Ps or my blog. Thank you for joining me for my December daily album, which features an Elf on the Shelf theme.